All right, so ladies and gentlemen, on Google Classroom, there is a slide deck that's titled 14 Points in Treaty of Versailles. Not Versailles, Versailles.
Versailles.
So last week we looked at why the United States enters World War I, and then how the economy and the government of the United States had to adjust itself to go to war and during the war. It is important to understand that when we make a comparison between World War I and World War II, the United States is in World War I from 1917 to 1918. They are involved in World War II from 1941 to 1945. So there's a big difference between 1 year and 4 years. That's like going to college for 1 year and going to college for 4 years. The simple fact of what we are looking at now is what can be done now that World War I is over to create peace. Can peace be created? So the President of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, is going to create a plan of his own, but the people in Europe have a little different idea because they're just mad. They're the ones that went through this entire war with Germany, and they want Germany to dun, dun, dun. Another one bites the dust. All right. So that's kind of the idea of what we're going to look at. But we are going to present this to you, and you need to have it pulled up because this is not like there's not a lot to type into these boxes the way that we're going to look at it because we're going to keep it very simple. But the first slide is looking at a cartoon, and Miss Housley is going to take us through that if I can get it to go. All right, we're good.
All right, guys. So we're looking at this cartoon. It's titled The Crime of the Ages, Who Did It? Okay. So looking at the first question over there to the right, it says, what is the woman in the background foreshadowing? Okay, so if you look at the woman in the background, there's a huge hand pointing toward her direction. She's laying there with a dagger in her chest, and the banner says the Peace of Europe. So what is the woman representing?
War. Like another war breaking out.
Well, what?
But look at the banner. The peace. Yes, the peace of what?
Europe.
Europe.
All right, and what? Like Miss Housley said, what's
So like,
What's
there
up with
being
the
no
lady?
peace.
what's up with the lady?
She dead.
Okay,
She's dead.
so make the connection.
She
So there
died
won't be no
for the
peace.
peace for Europe.
What'd you say, Madison?
Said she died for the peace of Europe.
Huh. Kind of.
Kind of. So
Like-
just if
Go ahead.
she is the peace of Europe, what is the peace of Europe? It's
The peace of Europe is what? She's what?
alive or dead.
She did.
She dead. So the peace of Europe is dead. Or the death of the peace of Europe.
The peace of Europe be dead.
Be dead.
I'm not. Let's keep it grammatically correct. Like you all understand, like through English class, I hope, like what
What
foreshadowing,
foreshadowing is. Yeah.
like predicting, like something that's going to happen in the future. Like,
Giving you a look at what may happen. It's trying to give you a hint at what's to come.
kind of like we're doing.
Mm. Okay. All right. So that's what the woman in the background is trying to give us a look at, is the piece of Europe is dead, or the death of the piece of Europe. Okay. Well, now the next part, the next question on there says, which is underneath there, says describe why the countries are pointing at each other. Okay. So if you look, we have everybody pointing to each other. We have England, Russia, Belgium, France, all pointing at Germany. We have Germany pointing at Russia. We have Austria and Serbia pointing at each other, and Italy's just kind of chilling over there like whatever. So why do you think they're all pointing at each other?
Don't agree who to blame.
They don't agree? Okay, so think about it this way. They all just were in this war, right? So imagine you're at your family Thanksgiving and you and your cousins, big group of cousins, get into this brawl out in the backyard and you're all in trouble, but then all your cousins are like, nope, it was them. Nope, it was them. Like, what are they trying to do?
They're blaming it on each other.
Yes, they're trying to blame each other. So, let's see.
Yeah, good.
So everyone's trying to put the blame on each other. So good, because no one wants to take the blame for a major war, right? Or what happened in the war. So, Mr. Sparrow.
Hold on.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
My heater.
Did it explode?
Not too bad. Okay. So now we are going to move to slide number 3. So you just looked at this cartoon. Just kind of rehash what is going on in Europe. So peace is gone. War has happened. Everybody's blaming everybody else. So who's to blame, and how do we move forward? Now, this is going to be as simple can be in looking at what we call Woodrow Wilson's 14 points. Now, I want you to think about, this is the President of the United States at the end of World War I, Woodrow Wilson. He has 14 points about world peace, okay? So in this particular case, think about like bullet points. So he's got 14 bullet points about how to create a lasting world peace. All right. And that is, so number one, it says, what was the 14-point speech? It was just that. It is points to create world peace. The phrase world peace is going to be a common theme through a lot of these. All right. But why did Wilson say he wanted to win the war? Well, the United States wants to win the war very simply for democracy.
For Sparta.
Ooh. Did y'all hear that?
What was that?
I burped.
Oh my goodness.
Is there a frog in there?
It like reverberated all the way through my chest cavity.
Goodness gracious.
I'm just going to stop there. I'm not going to talk about anything else because I got to be able to use this video.
Yes.
What did the idealistic 14 points do? Now, really, we're supposed to go through like the points and be like, well, point 1 creates freedom of the seas, and point 2 does this, and points 6 through 13 create new boundaries in Europe. for the creation of new countries and things like that. But what we just need to understand, and what we want you to understand about the 14 points, is that what did the idealistic 14 points do? They created a plan. A plan for, and here we go again, world peace.
Please make sure you all are putting this on your slides.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Get it together.
And again, this is redundant, but that's kind of the point. What were all these points based on? All of these points were based on, again, the idea of world peace, but something that we didn't mention in sixth period that I am going to mention here, they were based on so U.S. advantages. Yeah, it was to create world peace, but Woodrow Wilson also created these 14 points to help the United States. Like his idea, or his ideas here, were to the advantage of the United States. The final point, or number 5, the final point, so 14th point, the last point, was his brainchild, his big idea, his glorious, child. Like, this was it. His big idea, and the final point was what was known as the League of Nations. Now, on Friday, we will see how the United States reacts to the Treaty of Versailles and to this idea of a League of Nations. But the League of Nations, and I'm just going to take this from over here, was a support system. Of world nations to prevent future wars. The present day United Nations is very similar to what the League of Nations was. Now it's very different. But the League of Nations goes into effect and we'll talk more about this on Friday. But the United States never joins the League of Nations. Like, all no. But we'll talk about why. And in fact, the United States never signs the Treaty of Versailles. The United States creates its own peace treaty with Germany, which also guarantees Germany a loan. But we'll talk about that in a second. All right, so number 6, how much was Wilson's vision reflected in the Treaty of Versailles? Not much. Not much was reflected in the Treaty of Versailles. My phone is going off it is blowing off the chain.
What's going on?
I keep getting these phone calls from some number in Louisville that I don't know what the number is. But they haven't left a message, so it must not be too important. So, what we have looked at here, and before we move into the next slide, please make sure that you understand the 14 points are made to create peace. But these are the United States ideas. Okay? If you go back to this cartoon, Shane, I know you'll talk. How many people are in this picture? Count how many people.
8.
All right, so there's 8 people. The United States is not in this picture, so that's 9. There's at least 9 countries that you know of that were involved in World War I. Okay, 9. Well, guess what? When Woodrow Wilson creates these 14 points and goes to Europe for the peace treaty in Paris, 4 countries, 4 countries are going to decide the fate of the world after World War I. 3 are in Europe: Great Britain, Italy, France, and then the United States is going to join them. So 4 countries. Germany is not invited. Russia, not invited. So keep that in mind. Now, the Treaty of Versailles, we are going to take a look at, and this is the last thing we're going to take a look at today. The terms of the treaty. So what did the Treaty of Versailles say? Well, there's 3 things in particular that are going to, let's say, just slap Germany in the face. So the first of which is what is known as the War Guilt Clause. Has nothing to do with Santa Claus. Actually, it does kind of, because Santa Claus, the movie, has an E, just like this clause does, because it's something you have to sign. So it has a clause.
Like a legal clause.
Yeah. So, who's on here? I want to ask somebody something. Here, Shane Bergen, you there? I want to ask you a question.
Yep. What's up?
This is not a hard question. You'll be able to answer this, I promise. All right. Shane, have you ever gotten in a fight?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So have you ever gotten in a fight that you consider that you did not start?
No.
Okay. So let's backtrack a little bit. Have you ever been in a fight that was not completely your fault that it happened?
No.
Like somebody else did something, so you stood up for yourself or somebody else?
No.
No?
Nope.
Okay.
You just started fights just to fight.
Yeah, my cousin, they was fighting somebody and I got in there.
Well, there you
Okay.
go.
Cousin go down.
Because something else happened.
All right. So let's just say in that situation, Shane, that whoever was fighting your cousins,
Yeah.
okay, they get to decide how this is resolved. Like you all have a fight. Let's say you all won or lost. Doesn't
We won.
matter.
Either way.
It doesn't matter. But the other people involved get to decide on what is going to happen moving forward. All right. So one of the things that they are forcing you to do is to sign a piece of paper saying that the fight was your fault. Okay. And you have to sign it.
What if you don't sign it then? You get like military imprisonment or something?
There will be
Repercussions.
repercussions. It didn't actually happen, so I can't tell you what would happen. But the example that I'm giving you is just to say that Germany was forced to accept full blame for starting World War I. Okay? So my question to you all is, what could be a potential problem of Germany being forced to accept that blame? Like, how do you think Germany felt about that?
Do you think they were very happy about it?
No.
So what emotion would you use to describe how they felt? How would you feel, Shane?
What if I was forced to sign a piece of paper
Yeah.
saying that he can't fight no longer?
So that it was your fault.
Say that it was your
That
fault.
fight happened.
I would be upset about it.
There you go. All right, so Germany is upset. And we're going to say a student in last period said that they felt like a target. So Germany is upset and feels like a target. So by target meaning, they're after us.
Like, why are you singling me out? I feel targeted. Like that kind of thing.
The second term of the treaty that we're going to look at. So Shane, now that you've signed this paper saying you're accepted the full blame, now they're telling you, well, guess what? There's a lot of damages, and you are going to have to pay for the cost of hospital bills, of damages that are done in the yard. You have to pay for those.
How would I feel?
Yeah. Now, how would you feel?
I would be beyond upset. Like, if there was two states that got in there, I feel like that they wouldn't just have to pay for it. The other state would have to also.
Okay.
Like,
All right.
kind of like the last one, they was being targeted to pay for everything.
So not only were they told they had to pay money, they had to pay $33 billion. Okay. So, Shane, if you, or any of you for that matter, if you all had to pay $33 billion, like, would you be able to do it right now?
No.
Okay. Me either. So don't feel bad.
Well, the U.S. is in
Not even
debt, so
close.
that's more than what the U.S. can pay for, too.
And they are. So this is what has happened. Germany, because of this, Germany goes into debt. Everybody knows what debt means, I hope. Like you owe money. Like you don't have enough money to pay your bills, so you're in debt. Or you've bought something with the help of a loan, so you're in debt because you owe the bank or whoever gave you the loan money.
And that includes credit cards.
Oh, mine. Those are bad, man.
Bad.
Yeah, my dad is 77 years old and does not have a credit card.
My grandparents do not have a credit card.
I don't either.
You don't have a credit card?
No, sir. Cash is king.
How do you? Like some things that you do, you have to have a credit card, don't you? Like hotel
You get
reservations and stuff like that.
No, they take debit cards.
You can say it's a
Oh.
credit card.
Well, you've got a debit card. All right, that's okay. I thought you meant you didn't have like either.
No,
Oh.
just credit cards.
Come on, at least I'm a little hip.
He's like, I might be from Bloomfield, but I got a debit card.
Dude, they don't even. Well, before like King Southern, I used to bank there. They didn't even have an app. I was like, what kind of sorcery is this?
So Germany goes into debt, and there's a lot of poverty. So poverty is created in Germany, and we only got 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah. Poor, really.
Okay, so League of Nations created to resolve international disputes, the support system of world nations to prevent future wars. Germany is not allowed to join the League of Nations, okay? And at the same time, a potential problem here is that the League of Nations would pull nations into another war. Okay, so if you couldn't settle the things outside of fighting each other and you went to fighting, well, it's kind of like what Shane just said. Well, my cousin's got in a fight, so I helped him out. Well, that's kind of what the League of Nations did. Because if I'm going to say, you know what, I will help you in a time of need, when they need me, guess what? I'm kind of contractually involved. So now I have to help. So that was a problem there. And then finally, Germany military is reduced and colonies are confiscated. So just to put this as far as a potential problem, Germany is embarrassed and cannot protect themselves. So Germany, their military is reduced to like 100,000 people. Their colonies are confiscated from them. So any of their resources and things that they had gained through imperialism was taken away from them. And in fact, Germany, based on boundary changes after World War I, was made smaller. Like the country itself was made smaller. Poland was created. There are some other countries that are created in Europe as well. And we don't have the time to look at that and to see how it affects Germany. But I just want to leave you with this thought. All of these things here, okay, these are big slap in the face, each one. War guilt clause, bam. Germany's got to pay $33 billion. Wham. Poverty is created. Wham. Can't join the League of Nations. Wham. Germany military is reduced. Wham. All right. So you've got all these things that are happening to Germany. There is a German soldier who fights during World War I. After World War I, he is going to grow and eventually work his way up the ranks of the German military. And eventually, this man is going to become the leader of Germany. And because of what happens in World War I and the embarrassment that Germany goes through is a lot of the motivation behind Adolf Hitler and what is going to come in World War II. So just leaving you with that thought. On Friday, we will finish going through this, so don't turn this in yet. We've got 3 more slides to look at, and we are focusing on the United States side of how the United States is reacting to what is happening here with Germany and the treaty, okay? Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to stop presenting. Please make sure if you don't have everything filled in that you go back to the recording. Once it's up at some point this afternoon, you can use it to fill the rest of the stuff in. But we appreciate you being here. Ms. Housley, Coach Mason.
No, thanks so much for the participation. It was a lot better than last period.
Yeah.
It's awesome. We appreciate you. Make sure you stay caught up before Christmas break so you don't have to worry about work over Christmas break. Reach out to us if you need help. And keep up the good work, guys.
Have a good day.
What she said. All right. Deuces, guys. Have a good one.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.
I got a question real quick.
Emily? Oh, yeah, Shane.
So what is poverty? Is it kind of like debt?
Yeah, it's like a general state of being for a population. So it's like living underneath, having less money than you need to survive, basically for food and for shelter and everything like that. So people living in poverty normally don't, have money for groceries. Sometimes they're homeless. So that's what poverty is. Do you have a better description, Mr. Sparrow, or is that okay?
Like just so you can understand it, like Shane, like you have in, like what minimum wage means? Like when you work and you make minimum wage.
Yeah.
So like each state determines like what their minimum wage is. It's not like a dictated thing from the federal government, but there's a line, and it has changed over time because of inflation and the cost of living. So in different places in the world, like how much money you make, like if you make below that amount of money, you're considered to be living in poverty. Now, just because you are living in poverty does not mean that you can't feed your family, you don't have a place to live, you're homeless. Now, are some people in that category? Yeah, they are. But these are people that live and make less than what is considered to be above the amount of money that you can make to live, I guess, better. But there's a lot of people that choose to live that way. Like there's a lot of people that choose to not work as much, live in smaller homes, you know, and not worry about like the luxuries of life. And they grow their own food and they're kind of self-sufficient. So, but there's also people that don't choose to live like that, and you know they can't find food. They don't have clothes. They don't have shelter. They don't have a place.
Kind of like in the Great Depression, they all live below the line.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of we'll talk more about this when we get to the Great Depression, but a lot of people get misguided when you think about what the Great Depression was, because was it a depression? Yes. Did people struggle? Yes. Did everybody struggle?
Yeah.
For the most part, yes, unless you were in like the top like 5%. But did everybody lose their job? No. Only like I say only, but in comparison to what's in your mind, only 25% in the Great Depression lost their jobs or unemployed. Like that was the highest that it got, was like 25%.
So after the Great Depression was over, so did like everything was gone downhill. So after the Great Depression was over, did some of them stay down and they like others grew back up, or did they all go back up and it just kind of slowly like it changed? Like
well, here's the
down,
thing.
some went up.
Like at the trying to think of how the best way to explain that to you. Like the government.
Real quick, Mr. Sparrow, was Cody in class last period?
Which one?
Cody with the I.
I didn't see him.
Okay. So no, Emily. Sorry, Mr. Sparrow. Sorry, Shane.
No, you're
But
right.
that doesn't mean he wasn't. I mean, I don't have his name down.
Okay.
But Shane, the government creates. Really, the government had never created like social programs that funded the unemployed or created jobs for the unemployed until the Great Depression, or really, I guess I should say until like the New Deal programs. And those programs are things that we're going to take a look at. Like nobody ever really had thought about the idea of retiring, like retirement. So now, like we do investments and create 401ks and do all these things. So like when we get to a certain age, like we can retire. Like we don't have to go to work. We get retirement payments through different investments that we made. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to do totally anything, because I don't know. It's at that point in time, nobody had money to do something like that, like saved up. And then the Great Depression hits and the banks lose all your money and you're scrambling. And we'll talk more about this later, so you'll understand it more. But when you think about poverty itself, like just think about there's a line like this.
Like the line between the lower class, the middle class, and the high class.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a misconception that's out there is that like blue collar workers are poor, and that farmers are poor. And I think it's a misconception, because there's a lot of blue collar workers out there that make some good money. And also, like I said, there's a lot of people out there that choose to live in particular ways. Like for example, like my father-in-law is a retired 2-star general, and they have all kinds of money. Now it's saved up money. It's not like they live their entire lives like that, but they've saved up all this money, and they could very easily like build this huge house and do a lot of stuff with that money, but they have chosen to invest it and to kind of leave it like inheritance wise for their daughters. And people make decisions on how to use their money, and
Right.
some people are like, spend it while I got it, because I ain't gonna be here forever. And then there's other people that are like, I'm gonna save it. I want my children to have this and my grandchildren to have this. So the idea of poverty is kind of misleading because of what you see on TV. Because you see mostly on TV about people living under the underpass or the overpass, and those that are on welfare that just refuse to get a job. Which, are there people out there that refuse to work? Yes. But are there people out there that just cannot find a job? Yes. So, that probably turned into more of a explanation and a conversation than you wanted to have. But
No, that's fine. I'd rather have that. That helps out a lot more. I thought, that was just kind of a like debt thing, but which of course it is. But
yeah,
it,
and I think
it kind of turned into like talking about the lower class and all them, like the unfortunate and the,
yeah, and there's a big difference between